Good morning, students. In the last class, we have seen the definition of a process and the differences between a program and a process. And we have also dealt with how the process executes when how the process executes how the process executes by the operating system, right? So in today's class, we will discuss what are the different components of a process, right? So there are total six different components of a process, right? The one is ID. The one is ID, that is the identity given to a particular process. Then the code, the data, stack, resources, and the CPU state, right? So these are the six components of a process, right? So let us see in detail what are these different components. Okay, the first one is identity. It is a ID, a unique ID assigned by the operating system to the code of a program. Code of a program, or I can also interchangeably I can use program and a process, right? So it is a unique number which is given by the operating system to a program or a process, right? So with the help of this unique ID itself, it will operating system will identify which process to be executed next, and once the execution is over, then operating system will come to know which process execution is over, and it will try to um, access the next process, and the CPU will be given to the next process. Okay, next, second one is the data. It is the data used in the execution of a program, including the data from the files, right? So the data uh, which is inputted for a program or a process, right? So it might come from uh, the inbuilt database, or so in real-time applications, the user can enter those data through a keyboard, right? So this is the data, or this is the input, what you can say, input which is fed to the program for its successful execution. Third one, the stack. It contains the parameters of the functions and the procedures called during during the execution of the program, right? So let us say I'll have so I want to write a simple program to add two numbers, right, which is stored in A and B, and I'll assign the result to third variable, that is C. Okay, so instead of performing this in uh, directly in the main program, what I'll do, I'll write a small sub program which is called sum, right? So to this sum, what I'll do, I'll pass two parameters, right? So the values of A and B are passed to this, right? And the result will be returned back to the main program. Okay, let me write a simple program here, so where it it includes, so let me write a simple program where int I'll declare third variable, that is z. Okay, so here what I'll do, I'll write z is equal to x plus y, right? So x plus y, so then I'll return the value of z, right? So this is a subprogram which is performing the addition of two numbers. So this is sometimes also called, in higher level language we call it as a functions, and in lower level language or assembly level language, these are called as procedures. Okay, next we will see in a main program. So in main program, what happens, I'll not directly add those input variables, right? So what I'll do here, I'll read out the two values, and they are stored in A and B. Then I'll so I'm reading those values through a keyboard. Then I'll call a function called sum. So sum, the values of A and B are passed, right? So when I call sum, the value A is assigned to X, and value B is assigned to Y, right? So let us say I'm adding 5 and 3, right? So 5 is assigned to X, 3 is assigned to Y. Then Z is calculated by using the values of X and Y. So 5 plus 3 is equal to 8, that value is assigned to Z, and the same value is returned back to the calling program. So this is main program is called calling program, and this sub program or the function is called the called program, right? So in such cases, the stack will come into picture, right? So whenever the control jumps from the control of execution jumps from the main program to sub program, right? So the result, the address of the next instruction, let us say after sum I will be having a next instruction as a printf, let us say, right? So the address of this instruction needs to be stored somewhere, right? Needs to be stored somewhere, so that that somewhere or the temporary memory itself is called stack, right? So once the sub program execution is over, then the control will return back to the main program, right? So before it returns, it will retrieve the address which is stored in the stack, and it will jump to the particular address where the next instruction after sum is written. Okay, so this is the operation of stack. Okay, so stack will come into picture when only when the procedures or the functions are called during the execution of the program, and it also stores the return addresses of the next instruction to be executed in the main program. Okay, next, the resources. As I already discussed, the computer system have many resources like CPU, memory, IO devices, right? So these are all resources will be requested by the user program or a process, and the operating system will allocate these resources to particular what program or a process. Okay, next, the CPU state. The CPU state is composed of contents of PSW and the general purpose registers of the CPU. As you have already discussed, uh, as you have already known in the microprocessor or microcontroller, there we have different registers. PSW stands for program status word, which will tell you the status of that particular program, right? So there are it is a set of registers. A word means a 16-bit register, right? So which will highlight the status of a program, right? Status of the program means whenever you are adding two numbers, right? So whether result is 0, whether carry is generated, whether auxiliary carry is generated, right? So these are all the different status of the program, right? Different flags you can say. And the general purpose registers, right? So in CPU or a microcontroller, we have small registers. We have registers here in the sense what the memory devices, right? So these are not the RES, right? So these are the digital devices which can store the multiple bits, right? So the CPU state will be highlighted by these different registers. REG, I'm not talking about RESI, REGI, which are the digital devices which can store multiple bits. Okay. Moving to the next slide, where this will tell you the relationship between a processes and a program, right? So there are two types of relationships between a process and a program. One is one-to-one, that is if you have one program and OS can create only one process for it. Okay, that is one-to-one relationship between a process and a program, a single execution of a sequential program, right? So many to one, I have only one single program. Let us say that program is very complex, right? So what operating system does, it will create many number of processes to handle that particular complex program, right? So many simultaneous execution of a program, execution of a concurrent program, right? So when a complex work or a complex program is divided into number of sub programs, right? So in such cases, operating system will generate a multiple number of processes to handle each sub program, right? So that relationship between process and program is many to one relationship. Then uh, so in such cases what operating system does in many to one cases, right? So we have only one program, okay? So for this program, or this is a complex program, let us say, which is divided into number of subprograms: subprogram 1, subprogram 2, subprogram 3, and subprogram 4. So what operating system does, it will create one processes to each subprogram, right? So collectively we can say it is only one process or a complex process, you can say, and which is divided into number of sub processes, right? So these are the different sub processes which are assigned to which are generated to handle different sub programs. Okay, so now uh, the process what operating system has generated for this program is called the primary process, right? So and sometimes it is also called as parent process. Okay, sometimes it is also called as parent process, and the processes which are generated to handle these subprograms are called secondary processes. So P1 to P4 are either called as secondary processes, right? Or we can also call them as the child process, right? So these are the processes which are inherited. It will make use of the resources which are assigned to a primary process, right? So this is, and what are the benefits of these child processes? Let us see those benefits. So I hope you understood what is the relationship between program and a process, that is one-to-one relationship or many-to-one relationship, right? So in case of one-to-one, we don't have any kind of different processes like primary and secondary process, right? So only one program you have, and operating system will generate only one what process, right? But in computer system multiple programs are running, so it is a bad idea. It is a bad idea of generating only one process to one program, right? So in such cases operating system must generate multiple number of processes for a single program, right? So it can generate, if it handles one program with one process, right? So then it can jump to another program and it will generate one more process, and that process will handle the second program, right? So the same thing continues in case of computer system, right? So the processes which are inherited by the parent process is called the child processes, right? And it will take the resources allocated to parent process or a primary process, and they start executing these sub process or sub programs. Okay, so what are the benefits of this? What are the benefits of child processes? Mm, the first benefit is computational speed up, right? So we are dividing a complex task or a complex program or complex process into a number of sub processes, right? So in this case what happens, the time taken by uh, these sub processes to execute will be less, or you can say the time taken by the complex process execution will be very less, or you can say the speed up computation speed will be increased. Okay, so actions that the primary process of an application would have performed sequentially if it did not create a child process, right? So one after the other. Let us say if it doesn't create any child processes, then operating system must perform all these programs, or execution of these programs will happen sequentially. That would be performed concurrently when it creates a child process. When a child process are created, then we can execute all the sub processes concurrently, that means at a same time. So this may reduce the duration, that is running time of an application, right? So you are dividing the entire application into sub applications, right, or sub programs, and you are assigning on one process to each program, right? So in that case what happens, the execution speed of that particular complex application will increase. Second, priority for critical functions. We can also operating system can also assign different priorities for critical function. A child process that performs a critical function may be assigned a higher priority. It may help to meet the real-time requirements of an application, right? So let us divide the complex application into a number of sub-applications, right? So among those sub-applications, we are going to divide them as a critical applications as well as non-critical applications. So the critical applications needs to be executed first before the non-critical applications need to be handled, right? So for that, operating system can assign different processes, different priorities to these different child processes. Third one, guiding a parent process against errors, right? So child process can also guiding, it is not guide, guiding a parent process against errors. The kernel aborts a child process if an error arises during its operation. Let us say if any error occurs, uh, the the resources what child process requesting, if that resource is not available with the operating system, then I can say error is going to happen. In such cases, the child process can guard the parent processes, right? The kernel aborts a child process if an error arises during its operation. The parent process is not affected by the error. It may be able to perform a recovery action, right? So the error will be handled by the child process itself, and it will not be affected to the parent process. That error will not affect the parent process, right? So it will be handled by the child process itself, which may be able to perform some recovery actions by the parent process, right? So these are the advantages of having child processes in operating system. Okay. Next, we'll move to next slide, in which we are going to discuss how these child processes can help us to execute a particular application. Let us discuss one application, what we have already discussed in the real-time operating system. And while discussing the classes of operating system, we discussed the real-time operating system, in which we discussed one example of collecting data samples from the satellite and storing in a memory, right, before the next data sample comes from the satellite, right? So we'll take the same example and we'll try to explain what are the child processes and or how that particular application is handled by the operating system. Okay. The child processes in a real-time application. A real-time data logging application of receiving data samples from a satellite at the rate of 500 samples per second and stores them in a file. Right. The same example we have seen in the real-time operating system. Right. So where satellite is sending 500 samples per second, and the base station or the operating system, which is sitting in the base station, is collecting and storing them in a file. So we assume that each sample arriving from the satellite is put into a special register of the computer. Okay. The primary process of application, which we call as a data logger process, has to perform the following three functions, right? So how that particular function is divided, right? Collection of data samples, how it is divided actually, right? It is divided into three different functions. Copy the sample from the special register into memory, copy the sample from memory into a file, right? So let us say whatever data we are receiving from the satellite, that will be stored in a special register, and that special register will be the content of special register will be stored in a memory, then memory content will be transferred to a file. So perform some analysis of a sample and record its result into another file used for future processing, right? So once those samples are received, the analysis is performed on those samples, and the results will be stored in one more file, right? So these are the different functions what data logger process has to perform, right? So data logger process is a parent process. It is going to accept the samples received by the operating system, satellite, right? So data logger is a parent process, and it will create three child processes. One is to handle the copy sample from special register to memory, then record sample from memory to a file, then housekeeping things, that is analysis is done, and the result will be stored in one more file, right? So this is a parent process, this is the parent process, and these are the child processes. According to the criticality of these child processes, the priorities are assigned, right? So here I cannot see any kind of critical things, so it has to execute first, then this process has to execute, and the third process has to execute last. Okay. So register, so in that from that register a sample is copied in a memory, which is called a buffer area, and from that buffer area we'll record it in a file, right? So then our results will be stored in another file. Okay, in next class we will continue with the same.